Hello, ghosties. I'm Chance Lee,
And I'm Amanda McAvoy.
and this is That's So Gothic, a movie podcast about girls, guys, and haunted houses. And, Amanda, speaking of haunted houses, today's movie is not The Haunting, even though it has a similar plot, and it's not Haunting of Hill House, even though it has a similar title. Today we are talking about House on Haunted Hill. Released in 1999, House on Haunted Hill was directed by William Malone from a screenplay by Dick Beebe and based on a Vincent Price film of the same name from 1959. It stars Academy Award winner Geoffrey Rush as Stephen Price, an amusement park architect.
Mhm.
Um, Famke Janssen as Evelyn, his wife, who hates him, and a variety of house guests who are played by Taye Diggs, Larter, Brigette Wilson, and Peter Gallagher, and Chris Kattan as
Yes,
Pritchett, the house's owner. And I love that he gets the "and Chris Kattan" billing
of
in the
course.
credits.
Yeah.
Like that kills me.
Yeah.
But this is the story of four people who are challenged to spend one night in a haunted insane asylum to win $1 million. So this movie made $43 million
Mm.
against a $19 million budget.
Oh, nice.
And it has a 31% critical tomato and a 42% audience tomato.
Hmm.
Roger Ebert didn't even review it.
Wow, so rude.
He reviewed everything.
Yeah, literally. I mean, has there been pretty much a time that we didn't have a Roger Ebert review to go off of?
If he was alive, we have the
Yeah,
review.
that's wild.
I was shocked.
And this is a big movie,
Big,
like a
especially since it was a
ish.
remake that he
Yeah,
probably would want to trash.
right. Yes. Yeah. It's not like maybe he was just, I don't know, sick that week or something.
He was busy.
He was
This
busy.
was the same summer as The Haunting,
Yeah,
surprisingly.
very confusing.
Um, Entertainment Weekly gave this movie a B minus,
Oh,
and they called it trash, but
I
creepier than you expect.
agree with that. I
I
do.
do too.
Yeah.
This is fun. This to me is fun trash.
Yes.
So this is part of the kind of unofficial Dark Castle series that we're
Mm-hmm.
doing. So this was the first of their series of
Mm.
not all remakes, but when they first started making these movies, a lot of them were remakes.
Yeah.
So this movie is a remake of a movie by William Castle,
Mm-hmm.
who also did 13 Ghosts,
Mm-hmm.
and all of his movies had gimmicks. And so this movie's gimmick was called Emergo. And in the original movie, a skeleton comes out of a vat of acid. And when that happens, they would swing a plastic skeleton across the movie theater, like on pulleys.
Oh, that's so fun. I love that. That makes me so happy.
Again, bring this back.
Right?
This is
Oh
the
my
way to get people
God.
back in theaters.
Seriously, that just brought me so much joy. I love that idea.
Well, because we can't have good things.
Yeah.
Wikipedia says that theaters soon stopped using the effect because when local boys heard about it, they would bring a slingshot and try to shoot it down.
So, get another one. That's fun. It's interactive.
I'm glad the local boys are always being little shits, even
Yeah,
back in the 50s.
right. Seriously. Times haven't changed.
So, what did you think about House on Haunted Hill?
So I genuinely really liked it. Like I technically I shouldn't admit this, but I was under the influence while I watched this movie. And I think
I
that
think
is
that's a
the
good choice.
yes, I think it's the best choice. I think if you can watch this movie like with a group of people or just like when you just need like something schlocky and stupid, it's so much fun. And like genuinely, I mean, there were like so I'm like 99% sure this was my first time watching this movie. I had seen the original one years and years ago.
Oh,
Yeah, I went through a phase where like I was trying to watch a lot of like vintage horror, and so I know I watched it then. And it's funny because it's really schlocky then too, but like in an old timey way. Because, like you said, with the skeleton going across the theater in the original movie, there is like a very obvious fake skeleton on strings. Like all, it's probably when he comes out of the acid, he like comes out and then like across the screen. It's very funny. Um, but yeah, I think that this movie is like surprisingly really creepy at parts. Um, I liked it though. I mean, my biggest gripe with it is that 95% of it takes place in like a concrete basement, and there's like this beautiful house that they could have used. Um, like most of the movie is could have been kind of not anywhere, but like, it's a concrete basement, and it's the whole movie is, and I think that's a lot of people's problems with it, is it's called um House on Haunted Hill, and it's not really focused on the house. But I liked it. I thought it was fun. What about you?
I have a sentimental
Mm,
spot for this movie in my heart. I saw this movie twice in the movie theater as a
wow.
teenager, and
With the slingshot?
I should have. But I remember it being like I had friends who were turning 17, so we were
Mm,
able to get into this movie without our parents like having to buy us a ticket or getting another older like adult to buy us a
right.
ticket. So it's one of the first R-rated movies that I saw where like a parent didn't have to get us in.
Oh,
And I had such bad social anxiety as a teenager. The only reason I saw it twice is because a group of friends who like didn't know the first I had two different like groups of friends who
yeah.
didn't intersect
Hmm.
asked me to see this movie, and I was afraid if I said I had already seen it, they wouldn't want me to go.
Yeah.
So I went to see it again. I'm very fond of it, and it's another
Yeah.
one that I would watch on repeat on
Right.
HBO
Yeah.
when it came out, and it was a horror movie that was a good speed for me. It was just gross enough,
Mm.
just creepy enough
Hmm.
that and kind of just silly enough, I guess, that
Yeah.
I could watch it without being like upset by it or scared by it. Like you leave the
Right.
theater and you're done. It's behind
Yes.
you.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I'm very fond of this movie, and I was wondering, I was like, "Ugh, I probably hadn't seen it in over 20 years.
Mm.
How am I gonna feel when I rewatch it?"
Yeah.
And yeah, I still liked it.
Yeah. I think I'm realizing that I just, any type of movie like this, 13 Ghosts like this, even if I haven't didn't see them when I was younger, I feel nostalgic when I watch them. It's just
It's
like there's something about them and it's
it's
silly
that they played
because,
the same Marilyn Manson song twice.
oh my
That's gotta be
God,
what it is.
I do not like quick side note, did you know that he was in talks to play the Vincent Price character?
No! The
Yeah.
director mentions that he wanted him in the movie in the
Yeah.
commentary, but he didn't say for what role. That would have
Oh,
been horrible.
I would have hated it because I do. When I heard that song, I thought, first of all, I thought it was Billy Idol. And I went, that's a weird choice. And then it wasn't until the end. Oh, no, no, no. I'm sorry. They didn't want him for Vincent Price. They wanted him to play the doctor, the crazy asylum
Gotcha.
doctor.
Yep.
Um, yeah, and it wasn't until the end of the movie.
Still
I
would have
think,
been a bad choice.
yes, during the end credits, I think they say something about him. And I just kind of zoned out at that point. I really did not like that song. And I'm not a Marilyn Manson fan.
I couldn't believe they used it twice. It's in the
Yeah,
opening and in the credits.
exactly.
How did you end up watching this movie?
Checked out from the library. That's right. Yep.
Ah, me too.
Yep.
And it's in that old school case that's half plastic and
I
half just a
love
piece of
those.
cardboard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As a patron, I love
And
those. As a librarian, I hate them. Yeah.
yeah. And when I used to have lots of DVDs, they always looked out of place on the shelf. I wish they had
Yes.
just chosen one or the other. Just
Exactly.
choose
Same.
a way to go about it. Did you notice that it has DVD ROM features that only work if you put it in your PC DVD drive.
Oh, doesn't it have like a chat room or something? Is
So
that this movie?
if it did, I didn't find that
Yeah.
one.
Oh.
What I wanted to do is it said it had an interactive escape the house game. And so we have one that you can plug into your computer where I work.
Yes.
So I got that. I put the disc in. I installed the game on my computer, but Windows 11 will not play this game that
What?
was made in 1999. I need someone to loan me a Windows XP laptop. Um,
Yes. I bet I
so
have
I
one
actually,
in the basement.
now that I'm saying this, I wonder if I still have my old laptop that I think has a
Yeah.
DVD drive. If I dig it out, we'll do a report. I'll report
Yes,
back on the game. But
please.
one thing it did have that I could access were 2 essays on history of horror and horror
Oh.
remakes. And I'll post the link. I'll upload them and I'll post the link in our show notes if people are interested in reading
Hmm.
them. I thought they were really interesting and they go through like kind of the classic horror, Dracula, The Mummy. They
Mm.
go through all of those and kind of their history. And then in the remake one, they talk about the remakes to those, like the Francis Ford Coppola Dracula and the Mummy
Oh.
with Brendan Fraser. And they go through it, eventually it's all leading up to like House on Haunted Hill. They mention all
Yeah.
that and all the Dark Castle stuff, but it was still really informative and really cool.
Wow. It's like That's So
Yeah,
Gothic before That's So Gothic.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
Interesting.
yeah, like I said, I'll post the link to those
Hmm.
when we post the show.
Please do.
So let's talk about the cast and the crew a bit.
Mhm.
So this movie is directed by William Malone, who also did Fear.com, which I
Oh.
think I randomly mentioned a few episodes ago.
Hmm.
That movie was garbage and I couldn't finish it.
Yeah, and it sucks because I actually own it on DVD and I've been meaning to watch it, and now I'm like, ugh,
I
ugh.
really hated it. People think this movie, House on Haunted Hill, on people on Letterboxd think that this movie has an artistry to it and that William Malone is some sort of forgotten artist. And for this movie and certain scenes, I agree. But
Yeah,
then they start posting the same types of comments on fear.com. And I'm like, what movie are y'all watching?
yeah. And Fear.com is also a remake, isn't it? Of a Japanese movie, right? Isn't it a remake of Pulse? Loosely?
I'm not sure. I could
Yeah,
not
I could be
be less
wrong.
engaged in it.
Yeah.
It has very Ring-like vibes, so I wouldn't be
Okay.
surprised if it's a Japanese
Yeah, I think that's
remake.
why I ended up buying it because I like Pulse if I remember correctly. Hmm.
Wasn't there also a Pulse remake with uh Veronica Mars?
Oh,
What's her
and
name?
she was in Kristen, not Kristen.
It
Kirsten?
is
No,
Kristen.
it is Kristen.
I
I
thought Kristen in my head too. Anyway, she's
Yeah.
really annoying now,
Yeah.
and it's a shame.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah. 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 Oh, I can't think of
Well,
it.
this movie has a lot in common with some of the other movies we've been talking about, like um like we've talked about the sexy titty ghosts, and this movie has a ghost that is made of sexy titty
It's
ghosts.
mostly titty. Yeah.
I had no idea until I
Yeah.
was watching the commentary. I wasn't really looking at the ghost. And then in the commentary, they talk about how they filmed like nude women
Mm,
writhing around with tree branches. And
right.
then they composited them into this Rorschach blob of a
Yes.
ghost.
Yeah. Yeah. So just mostly titty.
So bizarre to
Yeah.
me. Um and the director also, like, there's some uncomfortable like scenes of like sexual danger in this movie that I feel like are
Mm,
very 90s.
yes.
Um but one thing I found charming was that the director calls movies pictures. He's like, this is
Oh,
something great for a horror picture, like in the
oh,
pictures.
that's so quaint. He should have like a little cigar, Shay.
I know. I know he really should. But he didn't really do anything else, so
Yeah. Oh. Oh, really? This was kind of it.
yeah.
This and Pulse or whatever it was. Oh.
Yeah,
Huh.
yeah, that was his apex. And
Wow.
then same with the screenwriter, he also wrote Blair Witch 2.
Oh, the Book of Shadows.
Book of Shadows,
Ooh.
which the first 5 minutes of that movie is phenomenal,
Yeah.
and the rest is hot trash. And it's
Yeah.
hard to tell because that one did have a lot of studio interference.
Mm,
So who knows? Maybe
right.
the script was good. But I learned in the commentary that one of the coolest kills in this movie, which is at the very beginning when the doctor gets the fistful of
Ooh.
pencils through his
Yeah.
neck,
Yeah.
the screenwriter is the doctor who gets
Oh, that's
killed.
so fun.
Yes.
I love stuff like that because I just want to be there on that like day of filming, just like, okay, Jerry or whatever your name, like just get in there. We're gonna put pencils in your.
Yes.
Oh, that's so fun.
I thought that was a fun little tidbit.
Yeah. Right. Oh.
So we also have Geoffrey Rush,
Mm-hmm.
who was in everything in the 90s and
Mm.
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Right. Yes, that's where I recognized him from. Yeah. Yeah. He plays a.
Anything to say about him?
I feel like he plays like a really good Muppet in this movie. He kind of has like Muppet manners. Like there's there's one part where they're talking, and so like the whole, we'll talk about it more with Famke. Did I say your name
Mm-hmm.
correctly?
Mm-hmm.
With her, but like her whole character is that she just hates her husband and he hates her. And so at some point someone brings up something like, "Oh, if you go into this room, like you'll die." And the camera pans to him and he just goes, "Someone should tell my wife that." And the way that like it was like a mix of like a Muppet and like every like 2000 sitcom where the husband just like hates his wife. Like he plays it great, really muppifying it. Oh, it's. I did like him in this though. I thought he went kind of cheesy, which I appreciate.
He's so hammy. It's the
Yeah.
right choice.
Yes.
In the commentary, they say he was inspired by John Waters.
Oh, very interesting.
And he was
Yeah,
trying to be John Waters.
little mustache too,
The little
which I mean I
mustache.
think is technically a nod to Vincent Price.
Vincent
Yeah.
Price. Yeah.
Um, but still, that little mustache gets around.
The little mustache, him being a little fruity, her always accusing him of being gay.
That's right. I kind of forgot about that aspect of it. It's really funny.
It's so funny. We don't get jokes like that anymore, and it's a shame.
No, no. Oh,
He's always accusing her of being with other men, and she's
yeah.
like, "What turns you on more, the thought of me or the thought of the other men?"
Oh, yeah. I love him.
He's great. Famke just smokes up the screen in
Oh,
this movie.
she is. I did not know. So the only thing, what's the really? Oh, X-Men. That's the only thing I
Hmm.
know her from, and so I had no idea she had this like bombshell bitch, like
Oh, hmm.
capital B's. Oh my god, she is so bitchy and mean, and I just love her in it.
I think her very first line is when she walks into the room and she just goes, "Who the fuck are all of you?"
Yes, yeah. And I could be, it could just be my memory, but like I feel like she's wearing this like super tight red dress, just like
I think
looking like a
so.
smoke show.
Hmm.
Oh, she's so good.
I really, really love her in this
Yeah,
movie. Like she's one
yeah,
of my main draws for this. Um,
absolutely.
so we also have the rest of our cast.
Hmm.
So first of all, especially in the 90s, really rude to have Ali Larter and Brigette Wilson in the same movie because it was really hard to tell them apart in the
Yes,
90s.
yeah. I
Like,
was
why
like,
can't
oh,
one of them have brown hair?
right,
There's two cute young white blondes.
exactly. I was like, which, you know, B plot blonde is this that I'm supposed to
Hmm.
be following right now? It's very confusing.
Right.
Yeah.
And Ali Larter ends up being our protagonist.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Like there isn't really a protagonist until about like 20 minutes till the end, I would say.
It's really an ensemble until everyone else is dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
That she becomes protagonist just because of the fact she's still alive.
Yeah, pretty much.
She is in that Beyonce movie you like.
I love that movie. I love it because she's so insane in it. So I, and that's the thing is I don't love her in this movie because she's just kind of meh. Like the main thing I remember is she has this weird sort of romance with Taye Diggs. At one point, he like helps her down and he touches her butt. She's like, "I don't think so, Mister," or something like that. And like, even her story's supposed to be interesting. She's actually not the person who was invited, but she like took her boss's place. But it's like a very throwaway thing. Yeah, I did not really, quite frankly, enjoy the scenes with her or anything. And I think she's so great. So it was kind of a bummer.
I generally really like her, but yeah, she
Yeah.
doesn't get a lot to do in
No.
this movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brigette Wilson would eventually marry Pete Sampras if she hadn't already at this time. So that's basically what she does now is she's Pete Sampras's wife and mother to his children. So
Awesome. Good for her.
I don't know how I don't know if she was dating him at the time. I knew who she was somehow at the time of this
Mm.
movie. She was Sonya in the Mortal Kombat movie.
Oh, never seen it, but I could see that.
It
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat is good. The
Yeah.
second one is really, 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 really bad. And she refused to come back and she was replaced. Like half the cast gets
Yeah.
replaced with different actors for the second one.
Hmm.
But I did note that the director of Mortal Kombat would call her Robo Babe because she performed most of her own stunts in Mortal Kombat,
Wow.
which
Good
is
for
really
her.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, we have Taye Diggs looking like a snack as
Yep.
always in
So
this
true.
movie. He is so fucking hot. I can't remember. This might have been one of the first movies I had seen him in. I'm trying to
Yeah.
remember. He always just seems to have existed in my mind.
Right. Yeah. Seriously. He's always just been like a fixture in, I feel like whenever I would put on like E News, like it was always something about Tay Diggs. Like he was always just
Mm-hmm.
there. Um, yeah, he's great. He has good like comedic timing. I also think is really hamming it up too. Um, he's a great time. He's a great time.
Great time, great to look at.
Mm-hmm.
Also someone I find very attractive, Peter Gallagher, and his
Oh,
big
eyebrows.
eyebrows.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I
I
love a
always,
man with big
yep.
eyebrows.
I just think of is it Mr. Deeds he's in? I think so. That's where I know him from. It's an
Oh,
Adam Sandler.
okay.
Yeah, I think so. I hope so.
He doesn't get a lot to do in this either, but he is
No.
fun. He ends up being someone who's having an affair with the Famke character, and he gets
Yes.
a little bit of intrigue there, but then she kills him pretty
Yeah.
quickly.
Yeah. So he's pretty much out of there.
We also have someone else that I oddly find very attractive, and that's Chris Kattan.
I love him in
I
this.
I think he's so cute in
Yeah.
general, and he's such a weird little dork in this
He's such a
movie.
weird little dude. He has this line where he's like, that's it. Who wants to sleep with me before I die? And I'm like, I do. Hi. He's just this weird little, like buzzy, twitchy little guy. I love him.
He's great in this.
Yeah.
He's like not his normal like gonzo SNL self.
Mm,
He's a different
yes,
type of comic relief, which
he
I
is.
appreciated.
Yeah. I like that he's kind of like the only one who is just like actively. And I think in a movie where the characters are like inherently supposed to be kind of unlikable, he's the only one you're kind of rooting for because he doesn't want to be there. And
Hmm.
he's so good. I love him.
I think the motivations of the characters are so interesting in this movie
Mm,
because the two like there's not really a villain, which is
yeah,
really fascinating. Everybody's got their own different little stories. Everybody's
right.
there for a different reason or doesn't want to be there. I think the
Yeah.
movie's pretty unique in that way.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
We have one other person who's a very minor actor whose name I actually had to look up, but he's someone that I also find very attractive, and that is the little security guard who gets his face like torn off or something. His face just
Oh,
turns into a hole at some point.
yeah. Oh,
Um,
yeah.
he's played by this actor named Max Perlich, who for some reason in the 90s, I always loved seeing him in a movie and thought he was like the cutest thing I'd ever seen in my
Really?
life. He plays this little, he's only like 5'4" or something,
Uh-huh.
and he plays this mean little cowboy in Maverick with Mel Gibson.
Yeah.
Um And I always thought he was so cute in that. And so in my notes, I wrote that he played the security guard and he's a little chipmunk cutie.
Oh, chipmunk cutie. I
Because
can see that.
he has this kind of like pinched face. And
Yeah.
then since I wrote that, I found an article on a website that I'm not aware of called days.com that says
Uh-huh.
all anyone wants is a hot rodent boyfriend.
Oh my God.
Is this
I'm
the
so mad you
concept you're
brought this
aware of?
up. Yes, I'm very aware of it and I hate it. I literally was just talking to one of our mutual friends, Rachel, that we used to work with about this because I think it may have been that article. She said that there's this thing blowing up right now about a rodent boyfriend. And I hate it because I think it excuses people like Timothy Chalamet, who I don't inherently not like him, but I also inherently hate him. I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know what it is about the rodent boyfriend craze that bothers me so much, but it just does. I think in general, I think we need to stop like anthropomorphizing. I totally butchered that word, but like people in general, very bizarre to me. But the rodent boyfriend really, maybe it's because I have such like strong nostalgia for Ratatouille. I don't want it to be defiled that way.
I can see
Um,
that.
yeah, but yeah, the rodent boyfriend,
That
not a
article
fan.
made me realize that the rodent is totally my type. Like that is my favorite type.
Yeah,
I love Timmy. Love
yeah,
this little security guard with his little
yeah.
rodent face.
Maybe I feel too called out. I don't know, but I don't like the rodent association.
I don't like I a lot of times I don't like when especially like childhood cartoon characters are sexualized, so I can understand that
Mm,
aspect of it. That's always a
yes.
little bizarre.
Yeah. I think I would like it better if it was, I don't know, just call them what they are, which is like freaky little boys. Not little, oh God, that sounded awful. Freaky dudes.
They often are young though, that's part of
Yes.
the them being a rodent, I think, is
Yeah,
young.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe like freaky young fellas.
With pinched faces.
Yeah.
It's the pinched face that does it for me. It's
Yeah.
something about it's like when Alec Baldwin pinches his face and makes his nose really big in Beetlejuice, but like just when he starts.
Yes.
Just the first pinch and like
Yeah.
that's what I like in a man. Is one
Right.
little, you know, when God was crafting them in the womb,
Yes.
I
He
just
just
needed
kind of
him to pinch their face. Yeah, before like
just
I'm
kind of
done,
squished it.
little
Yeah.
squeeze
Beep,
there.
beep,
Yeah,
beep.
that's what
Yeah.
I need.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
that's
All
what I need
right.
in a guy.
You're selling me on the rodent boyfriend.
We'll think of a new term for it. We'll
Yeah.
think of a new
Yeah.
term for it. I'm still talking about the cast though. So we also have 90s singer Lisa Loeb.
I was wondering if you were going to bring that up. Yep. She's in there. She's great.
She's a reporter,
Yep.
and Spike from Buffy is her cameraman.
Yes. James Marston. Yep.
Marsters.
Marsters. I'm sorry.
James Marston is Famke's X-Men co-star.
That's so
Cyclops.
funny. Yeah. I didn't even
Mm-hmm.
put that together, but right. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And
Mhm.
then we have a very brief cameo by Peter Graves. He is the narrator of the kind of like true crime show that introduces us to that incident, and he was the
Oh.
pilot in Airplane.
Oh, okay. Nice.
And he did the exact same role in this movie in Adam's Family Values. He's a true crime host who tells us Joan Cusack's true identity as a
That's so
Black Widow.
fun. Oh, that's so fun.
Yes.
He's
So I
carving
love
out a
that.
niche for himself. Yeah.
That was his like late stage career. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
Which now that I think of it, and we'll never talk about Airplane on this podcast, unfortunately, but I think Robert Stack, who went on to actually do Unsolved Mysteries, he
Mm.
is also in Airplane.
Oh, that's funny.
So
Maybe
there's some
Airplane
synergy
is
there.
a gothic movie.
I mean, they are all trapped on that plane.
That's true. We could stretch it.
We'll revisit that. It'll
Yeah.
just be me quoting the whole movie. It'll be so annoying.
Actually, never seen it, so I know maybe I should watch it for the podcast.
And while there's not a sexy titty ghost,
Mm.
there are a couple of random sexy titty jokes in the movie.
Oh.
And this movie existed at a time before PG-13 was a rating.
Oh.
And I remember being so shocked because this movie was PG. And
Mm.
there's a new naked boob shot in this movie.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible.
And because there's all this turbulence and
Hmm.
everything's flying across the plane, and for some
Yeah.
reason, like a naked lady just jumps across the screen.
Of course. What else would you do during turbulence?
There's also another great turbulence scene in Airplane where there's this old woman and she's trying to eat jello and it's just like shaking all over the place on her spoon. But
Yeah.
then they keep panning over and there's a woman with no bra on and her boobs are just going all over the place because of the turbulence.
Oh, sounds amazing.
Airplane's a classic, stone
Yeah.
cold classic. Well, let's hit that gothic beat for
Mhm.
this movie. Gothic films have four elements: a girl, a guy, a house, and a haunt. So, our girl, we kind of have like almost like the whole group is a girl.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like Chris Kattan is the most capital
The most,
G Gothic girl out of the group.
I agree. I agree. He's the only one who is actively trying to leave. Well, he's the one who feels the most trapped, I should say.
Hmm.
He
He has the least to gain.
he has the least to gain. I feel so bad for him. Like he really shouldn't have been in that situation. And he kind of like redeems himself at the end. He kind of gets absorbed into the sexy titty ghost, I think. I
It
don't
is
really
so
understand what
bizarre.
happens at the end.
No, I don't think they do either. The end makes
No,
no sense.
it's so silly.
And he basically becomes Casper.
Yeah, yeah, he does.
He
Yeah.
literally turns into a ghost, but
Uh-huh.
he's a white ghost, like because
Mm,
the bad ghost is like an ink blot, it's black,
yes.
and then he's like a white ghost that just happens to like pull a pulley
Yeah, he
and
can do
open a
that.
window, and
Yeah.
then the light comes in. Yeah,
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I would say he's just for the mere fact that he's the most charming too. He's the gothic girl.
yeah. I think he's our gothic girl, and then our guy is the Geoffrey Rush character. I think
Yeah. You
that's
could
my.
also could kind of say the house is the guy because there's the really
Ooh,
stupid, insane plot point that the house hacked his computer
that's right.
and and changed the guest list because he made a completely different guest list. So he didn't even know these people who showed up. And
That is very good point.
and the house somehow, because the internet was an ethernet, because it's 1999, traveled through the telephone line to his computer in wherever and physically changed the guest list. So you could say it was the house, which is so funny to me that this movie is impossible now that we use Wi-Fi.
Oh,
I
yeah.
know. Well, I mean, there's
It's
still
historical
Ethernets out
fiction
there.
now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But so funny to me.
It has to be the house. You're right. This is our
Yeah.
first movie where the house is the guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yep. And then the house is the house, obviously.
The house is the house and the house is the guy.
The house is
And on this
both.
podcast is the only time that place that sentence makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Wow.
And the house does it because they're all like descendants. So the house used to be an insane asylum,
Yeah.
and there was a breakout of crazies because you could still do
Hmm.
that in the 90s. And 90s were a big time for insane asylums. I think
They were.
99 was also the year of Girl Interrupted, um,
Oh, yeah, I think so too.
which took place at McLean Hospital, which is in
Mm.
Massachusetts.
Yep. Yep.
I just learned that,
Yeah.
but I had no idea. And some of the nurses and doctors lived, and these people who the house invited are their descendants, and it wants revenge.
Yeah. And that's the lead up to the greatest line in the whole movie, which is Taye Diggs' character is about to get killed, and he screams, "I'm adopted!"
That's true. That was really good.
Again, like I feel like the reason I like this movie is because it knew it was ridiculous and stupid, and it was fine with that.
I think it hits the tone perfectly.
Yes, yeah. It's by no means a great movie. It's maybe not even a good movie, but it's a fun movie.
It's fun, and that
Yeah,
yes, and you want this
yeah,
type of movie to be fun.
right.
Um,
And like I said, so the problem, my biggest problem with it is that you really don't see the house a whole lot. You see sort of the first main atrium, sort of ball bar area. You see a brief glimpse into a bedroom. There's one scene with Evelyn and Vincent. Um and that's kind of all you get of like a bedroom, but then most of the movie takes place in sort of this like brutalist style. Like it's very confusing because it's like a basement, but then it's also like the actual building is this huge brutalist tower, and they end up at the very top of the, like it's like a bell tower almost. It's but it's also like you get there by going through all of these super concrete hallways. It's very bizarre. There's like sort of two sections, and at no point do you understand, which maybe you could argue maybe that was intentional and like a cool part, like they wanted to confuse you, like where are you. I think it was just kind of silly planning and just kind of letting the characters end up where they needed to end up kind of thing. But um yeah, I wish you had seen more of like the old. I wish they had committed to one or the other, I guess I should say.
it's interesting that you mention brutalism
Mm-hmm.
because the guy who is that guy that designed that scary building in Boston?
Oh, I don't know
Do you know
his
which
name.
one I'm talking
the
about?
the Boston City Hall.
Yes,
Yeah.
there's like the government services center that's nearby that has the
Yes.
almost Escher like
Yeah, like
staircases
tears. Yeah.
outside.
Yep.
So that guy, he also did the Niagara Falls Library.
Yes.
Um, when I went there, because I was like, this building looks familiar.
Mm.
His name's Paul Rudolph, and he also designed a mental hospital, I think, at some point.
Oh.
And interesting, your criticisms of this building, which is
Hmm.
also supposed to be a mental hospital, were people's real life criticisms of his design, that it was confusing and hard to navigate
Yeah.
and seemed to mimic the feeling of being insane.
Hmm.
Um, and I think
Oh.
one of his, I might be making this part up, but I think one of his reasonings was that like, it's supposed to, it's like putting the I can't think of the crazy people, is what
Yeah.
they would call them at the time, but putting them on roller coasters and stuff. You drive them crazy to make them sane.
Right.
I do
Yeah.
not I do not have any evidence that much thought went into this
Right.
movie, but
Yes,
that's what you made
exactly.
me think of because they never once bring that up in the commentary. And
Right.
funnily enough, you mentioning the house and you get the gorgeous living room, and then you said
Hmm.
you get a glimpse into a bedroom. The bedroom set is the living room set. They just redressed it.
Stop it. That's so funny. Oh, that's so funny.
So I don't know
I
where the budget for this movie went, but it did not
Yeah.
go into the sets.
Yeah, it went into Geoffrey Rush, honestly.
Maybe it did.
And he earned his paycheck in my opinion.
He really did. I think
Yeah.
he had already at least gotten an Oscar nomination by this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Um they so the set, like, yeah, the geography makes no sense. So there's like, it
Yeah.
looks like a house from the front, but then yeah, there's this tower on a cliff
And
overlooking the
over an
ocean in the
ocean. Yeah.
back. Yeah. And so that is just a miniature that they
Mm.
built. There's actually surprisingly very little computer effects in this movie.
Oh.
Even the sexy titty ghost is made, they did it with like old school film
Yeah.
techniques, like
Didn't they
cells
like
and
project
stuff
it or
like that.
something? Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
when it would kind of like, it looked like liquid coming out of the ground, that was
Mm.
just a magnet and some iron filings. So that was
Fun.
totally practical.
Oh, I love
Um,
that.
so they did the miniature work, and then the front of it, you only see the front when they first show up, and
Uh-huh.
that is the Griffith Park Observatory. Um,
Oh.
that my favorite, I feel like every other movie is shot there, but my
Yeah.
favorite is when Demi Moore backflips off of it with her golden guns in Charlie's Angels Full Throttle.
Oh my God. Iconic.
Hmm.
Wow.
So that's the
Wow.
front of the house, and then they used a matte painting technique to make it look like
Oh,
the tower. So I
yeah.
do really like the old school filmmaking in this, and the scene
Yes.
where they trap Geoffrey Rush in that room
Yes,
where
with the
it's spinning.
images. Yeah.
I find that scene really well done and
I love
really,
that scene.
like, modern and abstract and
Yes.
creepy and just, like, out of place in a movie like
Yes.
this. It's almost so good it doesn't belong in a movie like this, and I wonder if that's where people get this idea that the director is some sort of
Yes.
artiste.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that scene. I would I would lose my mind in a second in a room like that. It's so creepy. And I just love like Geoffrey Rush's face in the little porthole, like, ah, so good.
Yes.
Yeah.
That scene's great, and there's also this movie did make me I've I think this is the first time I would see it in the movie. You see the
Hmm.
doctor who you mentioned they wanted Marilyn Manson to play.
Yes.
He's played by the guy from Reanimator, but he like kind of walks into the room really weird and then starts
Yeah.
twitching and he
Yes.
does this spaz thing and walks off. That has always freaked me out ever
Yes.
since. Whenever they
And I
do that
feel
in a
like,
movie, it gets me.
yeah, I feel like a lot of, like, I'm sure this isn't the first movie to do that, but I feel like that's like kind of a common trope through a lot of these like cheesy 2000s movies. Like, I'm pretty sure we saw it in 13 Ghosts, but I think this movie does it like I said, like this movie genuinely creeped me out at points, and that was one of the
Hmm.
points. Like I think it's because it wasn't too overdone, which you can't really describe this movie as that in like any other way.
Subtle.
Yeah, subtle. I think it was just a subtle little nod. It was really quite sophisticated, but I do think it's because like it wasn't so, oh, and then because when he's shaking, it's like you can it's so gross, you can like hear his like cheeks flapping or something.
The sound effects are really creepy too, yeah.
It's gross. It's fun though. Yeah.
On the commentary, they say that they had him walk in slow motion and
Ooh.
recorded him, and then they sped it up and then also removed frames. So it created an unnatural,
Oh.
more jerky movement.
And again, that's probably why it was creepier, because I'm sure any other time I've seen that it was probably computer FX or something, and it's
Mhm.
it's really unsettling like that. That's
It
again
feels
just
natural.
yeah, smart
Yeah.
filmmaking.
Yeah, and that now I am thinking the director is some sort of artist because yeah, he
Yes.
was able and he for someone who doesn't have a big resume,
Yeah.
listening to him on the commentary and the techniques that he knew about and like his skill was so impressive to me.
Right. And
So,
I'm just surprised at how much like control it seemed like he had, like freedom. I mean, I could be wrong, but it seems like, this movie could have gone a different way with more studio interference. I
mhm.
don't know, but I'm impressed.
That's a good
Kudos.
comment. Yeah, he didn't mention anything that I
Yeah.
can recall on the commentary, and maybe since it was a new studio and first movie, they kinda
Yeah.
just let him
Kind of do what
cook.
he, yeah. Yeah. Let him in the kitchen.
Yeah. We've been talking about the ghosts a lot already, but our
Mhm.
haunt is ghosts again.
Ghosts. Vengeful,
Cl-
crazy ghosts who can hack
Classic
computers.
vengeful ghosts. Yes,
Yep.
they're classic and modern.
Mm-hmm.
They're and I couldn't quite figure out is it that the house is evil or is it just like the ghosts of a bunch of insane people?
I don't
Like,
know, because then it's weird, because then like the doctor is also evil, and
oh,
everyone
that's
is
true.
evil. Everyone is evil. The house is evil. The architecture is evil. Yeah, it's all bad.
It's just all bad.
Yeah.
One scene that I haven't mentioned regarding ghosts is another scene that I really liked, which is when the Bridget Wilson character has the camera
Yeah.
and she lifts it and you see the ghost, but they're not there.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
really well done scene.
And I do feel like, so I actually did watch the what's it called? Preview commercial, Why can I not think?
Commentary?
No, just like the TV commercial, like
Oh,
the
the trailer.
trailer. That's the word. Duh. I watched that for this movie, and that scene is kind of disappointingly in the trailer. And
Uh,
it's such a good scene. I wish they hadn't put in there, but I do think I must have seen the trailer when I was younger, because, or
it was everywhere.
yeah, or just like that scene was like ripped off by something else, because like it just felt iconic when I watched it. It's spooky. It's fun.
Really good scene. And they also mentioned on the commentary, done practically. They recorded the ghosts and then
Oh,
put the ghosts on Brigette Wilson's camera. And so she had to time it and time the lifting and the moving around with the footage that was already pre-recorded.
so fun.
Yeah, really
Yeah,
well done.
yeah.
Oh my God, the craft of
Oh,
House on Haunted
you know
Hill.
what? Modern filmmakers just cannot compete.
I kind of agree with you. They
Yeah.
can't.
I
The
just
CG has just made us. I say
I
us, like,
yeah.
but has just made it so lazy.
Yes, I love, and I'm pretty sure we've talked about it before, like just love practical effects. Like that is how you're going to get us to just love
Hmm.
your movie. It's just, and you really can tell a difference. And then when you learn about the effort that went into it, it just makes it so much better.
It's so interesting now that we've been talking about this to think about this coming out at the same summer as The Haunting, which was almost
Yeah.
all CG.
Yeah.
And this one being, and weirdly enough, I think the CG in The Haunting was good.
Yeah.
At the time, maybe they had to try harder because it was newer. I don't know,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's interesting that they're so opposites,
Right.
opposite
Yeah.
movies.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the effects in this movie. And I really enjoyed this movie. I would definitely like watch this again, especially like with a group of friends or something. Like it's a fun movie.
Talking about it makes me want to watch it again.
Yeah, right. Seriously, I might throw it on. Sorry, I have the only DVD in the consortium right now.
It's got to be the same one that I tried
It
to put
is.
in the computer. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's yours.
See if you have that a laptop laying around.
I
I've got to
should,
play the
honestly.
game.
I
I
know.
have to play the game.
I wonder if you can access the chat room. I'm sure you maybe you could chat on it, but I don't think anyone would answer you, but it would be great to see
That would
the
be so
messages on there.
funny.
Oh, it'd
I
be so
wonder if
much fun.
it could just be a link, it could just be
Yeah,
a link.
I
And that'd
bet
be
it
so
is.
funny if it was still
Yeah,
being hosted.
right? Oh my goodness. Yeah, definitely.
Maybe
Definitely.
we'll be able to have a update on the House
Yeah,
on Haunted Hill Escape the
I hope
House
so.
game. So we love the movie,
Yep.
rewatchable, but is
Hmm.
it gothic? We have our girl, Chris Kattan. We have our guy, the house. We have our house, the house. And we have our haunt, which is kind of the house.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah.
maybe
I
the
think
house
it's
is also the girl. All those terrible things happened
that's
into the house.
true. The house is really
This
the
is
main
like the
character.
trauma informed horror of a house.
Yes, it is. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I think it's gothic. I just think for the mere fact that it's the first one that we've gotten to talk, like, say that the house is both the guy and the house, like, it has to. It's so fun.
I agree. This is a really good. It's a throwback to.
Yeah.
I'm assuming the original is also gothic, but it's got all the tropes, but it puts some
Yep.
interesting twists on them.
Yes, I agree.
Well, are there any memorable scenes that we haven't touched upon that you wanted to gush over?
Well, like, I just wanted to mention how much I love like the first 10 minutes of this movie. Like the credits, I was like enthralled with them. They're so spooky and creepy. And it felt like walking through like a locally owned haunted house. Like that's what it felt like
Hmm.
to me. Like, and I would be so
Ooh.
interested to research like haunted houses in like thematic haunted houses like in the 90s. Like, were they stylized like this already and this movie took inspiration from them, or was it kind of a vice versa? Like, it literally felt like a haunted house, like, but like, a, a theme park haunted house. Like, it just
Yeah.
had that vibe. It was so much fun. I loved it. I could watch the trailer. I could just have that on in the background all the time. I love
Do
it.
you go to haunted houses?
It's funny you mentioned that. So I do. I usually try to go once a year for Halloween, but I did also go. That's a good segue into. I have been to the Halloween Haunted Nights at Universal, which
Oh,
then the roller coaster at the beginning is one of my favorite roller coasters. I've been on that roller. I watched it and I went, that looks really familiar. And
I
it's the Hulk, which is like one of my favorite all-time roller coasters. It's so much
love that
fun.
you've been on it.
Yeah, I was like, and it was so nice because I really miss it. I've really wanted to go on a roller coaster recently. So I got to live a little vicariously through it. It does not have the super fun fake out elevator at the beginning. I wish it did because I love that scene so much. I think it's so much fun. If I was in that situation and no one told me that that was part of the ride, I would legitimately have a heart attack and die. And honestly, that's all I've ever wanted out of a theme park roller coaster. So,
Just
like,
for it to kill you?
yeah, for it to kill me. I've been asking for years, and no one has stood up to the challenge except for Geoffrey Rush. Um, but I love the opening. I love this weird concept of he's this like demented Walt Disney. Like I love it so much. I love the setup for this movie. And I think everything else that I love, like the scene with Taye Diggs screaming that he's adopted. Like those are the most memorable parts for me.
I do wanna mention, I forgot, I'm glad you mentioned the roller coaster.
Mm,
The scene where after they get off the elevator that turns out to be a prank,
yeah.
and he turns around to them, I forget what he says, but he takes off his glasses, he looks over his glasses at them, and then the roller coaster, like, kinda goes
Oh,
over him.
so good.
Such a great shot. Oh, that's such a
Yes.
good shot.
So much fun. So good. I want to go back to Universal and I want to recreate I want to recreate that shot myself. I don't know how I'm going to do it because I
S
think
Crawl
technically
up there.
crawl up there or like technically maybe you could get an angle if you're on the ground, you could get it shooting above you. I don't know how I'm going to get it done though.
You can get it done. With modern technology, you'll find a way.
I'll draw a little pencil mustache on
You
and
gotta have the
I
mustache.
have to have the mustache. Oh, I love it.
My scene is memorable only because I've probably seen this movie a dozen times
Yeah.
and never watched it all the way through the credits, and there's
Mm,
this little post-credits scene where after the house has absorbed Geoffrey Rush and Famke, they are made the doctor and the nurse from the opening scene and being tortured on this table.
yeah. It's like disturbing.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I was going to mention it at the top, but I wasn't sure if you were going to mention it for this. I can understand why you never got to that scene because the song is so horrible. So you probably turned it
Oh,
off. Yeah.
I would just turn it off.
Yeah,
Yes, that's true.
exactly.
I didn't wanna hear it again.
Yeah. But it's really disturbing because they're not like screaming or they're kind of just like groaning in pain and it makes it so much worse.
It's like their purgatory.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'm glad you pointed that out to me because you had mentioned that I have to watch through the credits. I would not have stuck it out if you did not mention it.
I sometimes I usually try to, but sometimes I
Yeah.
forget. So
Yeah.
I was glad that I was taking notes and looking stuff up while just letting it roll in the background.
Yeah.
And then my other favorite scene is a scene that it was deleted and I've never actually seen, but I
Mm.
imagine if it was in the movie, it would be a favorite scene of mine.
Yeah.
And so, so the Ali Larter character, she is pretending to be Jennifer Jensen, vice president at some movie company.
Right.
And Jennifer Jensen is not in this movie, but they filmed scenes with her, and she's played by Debbie Mazar. And I guess they filmed a scene where she is like a total bitch to Ali Larter. And so Ali Larter steals the ticket and pretends to be her. They cut
Oh,
that. And since
yeah.
they cut that, they had to cut the movie's original ending, which is where somehow Debbie Mazar inherits the house.
Stop. Oh, that sucks that they cut it.
I
That would have
know, I wanna see it.
that would have made me like Ali Larter's character so much more, probably.
Yes.
Like, it would have given, oh my God, that would have been incredible.
Yeah, and I just love Debbie Mazar. I would have loved to have seen her in this movie.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
Maybe I'll have to look because there's a few of these Dark Castle movies that have had special edition
Yeah,
Blu-rays. I'll have to see if this one has one that has that
I hope so.
scene on it. Who knows? Maybe the DVD did. The special features of the DVD are so weird. You have to like, you have to like, I couldn't figure out how to navigate. And sometimes you
Yeah,
click on something and it's just like screaming. Like the the DVD features are so bizarre. Like it's such a sign of the times where
yeah,
they went all in on this interactive medium of DVD. And
yeah.
I have to wonder if I'm the only person who ever clicked on those essays, like, and put this in a
Yes,
computer.
honestly, hidden media isn't that's like a big trend right now is like lost media.
Hmm.
And I feel like
Well,
you've stumbled across them. Yeah.
we found it. I copied them. Don't
Yep.
sue me, Dark Castle, but I'm gonna post a link to them.
Yes, please get it out there.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, what else have you been watching, reading, enjoying?
I won't talk about it because it's shameful, but I have been watching a lot of Love Island, which you kind of already know about, but
I say be
just
proud.
yes, I'll just tell the listeners if you're also watching Love Island, please message me. Please tell me if you're Team Jess. I love them so much. I love Love Island. It's rotting my brain in the best way possible. But on a more serious note, I watched not my first ever John Waters film because I definitely saw Crybaby when I was like in high school. But I recently watched Cecil B. Demented, which this was my first time watching it. I was really hesitant to watch a John Waters film because even though I feel like Crybaby was like pretty tame, I guess, it's sort of, I would assume probably his most like commercially successful one. Obviously, a lot of the other things I've heard about him is it's very like gross out shock value kind of movies, and that is not my cup of tea. But I think Cecil B. Demented was like a good, like maybe watch Crybaby first and then watch this one. Like it's a good way to like maybe ease your way in. It was great. Stars Melanie Griffith, and she's so good in it. She's like this amazing bitchy actress. Um, she's so funny. It's really wonderful. There's a young oh my god, what is his name? Oh, Maggie Gyllenhaal is in it. She's great. Yeah, she has like some really really funny lines. She's like this goth makeup girl who worships Satan. She's phenomenal. It has a young Michael Shannon, which I didn't realize that was him until after I watched it.
Really?
He's the like gross like driver, and like
Okay.
he
I need to
it's
rewatch this.
it was good. It was surprisingly like really funny. um I when I was watching it I was kind of thinking, so the whole plot of the movie, if you haven't seen it, is um basically this like underground guerrilla movie makers kidnap this A-list Hollywood star and have her star in their own like guerrilla movie. um and so when I was watching it I was kind of rolling my eyes a little bit because it's very like, down with Maine, cinema, blah, blah, blah. And like, we're a sucker for a cheesy blockbuster every now and then. So like I was kind of rolling my eyes at it. But then as you watch it, you kind of realize that it's sort of making fun of both the like, super independent, gritty and the like huge studios. So I think it's worth watching. I liked it. There's some really funny, like one-liners. What's his face from the Chucky movies is like Cecil B. Demented.
Oh, that's right.
Yep.
Dourif, Brad
Dorff.
Dourif.
Brad Dorff. Yep. Oh, Steven Dorff. Oh, are they not? Is that not the
Wait,
same person?
I might have the wrong name.
No,
There's
no, I
two
think.
different people, and I forget who's which.
Okay, Steven Dorff is not the Chucky guy.
Is
So
he
Brad
in?
Dorff must be the Chucky guy. Steven Dorff, funny enough, is actually in Fear.com.
He's in Fear.com. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Is he? Oh, wow. Okay.
Wow. So I completely watched that. Like it's funny because I was watching it and I was like, oh, he
They
looks
might as
really
well be the
different.
same person.
Yeah, yeah. But he's actually really good in it. He's very funny. Yeah, I would. And it's again, it's funny that you brought up John Waters earlier. You know, he kind of has that kooky, you know, flamboyant kind of
Yeah.
style. And this movie I think is a little bit darker, not in theme or tone or anything, but like literally darker than some of
Hmm.
his other movies. Like it's not as like brightly colored in neon. I enjoyed it. It was good. I watched it on Canopy, a free library service,
Lovely.
and it might
Hmm.
be leaving soon. So check it out if you haven't.
Check it out. I also I really like Serial Mom, John Waters.
Mm. Oh, I don't think I realized that was John Waters.
And that's on
Interesting.
Tubi right now.
Oh, good to know. I
Hmm.
know one of our local movie theaters was playing that for Mother's Day that passed pretty recently.
I
So
know, I missed it. I was
yeah,
bummed.
yeah, yep. But yeah, that's my little mini recommendation. How about you? What have you been watching?
Well, first I will say a couple episodes ago, or the last episode, you
Mhm.
mentioned that you would watch Weird Al Yankovic in UHF.
Yeah.
And so I found it's also on Tubi.
Oh, really?
And I watched it one thinking that I guess there's no two, but one I thought I had tried to watch it before and I didn't like it and had turned it
Yeah.
off. But if I did, I remembered none of it.
Yeah.
I really liked it. It was so funny.
Yeah.
It's so good. I loved Spatula City, as you mentioned.
City,
Um,
yes.
you buy 9 spatulas, and the 10th one is only a penny.
And like all the kids are like, let's go to Spatula City. It's really good.
So good. Fran Drescher is so
Oh,
good in it. I just love
yeah.
her. She's so hot and so good in it.
Yes.
Kramer was a little much for me.
Hmm.
Um, and with his he had big fake teeth, I think.
Yes.
And
And he brought
he
those himself to set. Yeah.
stop it.
Yeah. Yep.
He has a memoir now.
Stop it, really?
We just got it at my library. Yeah.
I'm actually very interested in reading that just because I would like to know his thoughts on his cancellation, which I do, you know, think is
Yes,
rightly
that was
deserved, but
extreme. Yeah.
yeah.
And yeah, be curious, read it and report back
Yeah.
report back to me about the cancellation and then report back to the podcast what he says about UHF.
You
But
got it.
so I am in the throes of my Nixon obsession, which I can't recall if I've mentioned on the podcast or not, but oh, and I have to show you my Richard Nixon stuffy. I got a Richard Nixon stuffy that I'll show you.
Oh,
I'm going to go get it.
okay. I'm so excited. Stop it. That is
He's really
not
tall.
the
I think
nose.
he's like a foot and a half.
I'm surprised at how gray they made him. He's been
He's
through some
really
stuff.
cuddly. I know. I just kind of carry him around. I carried him around the library a bit this week because the other because like because I was so excited. So so I got him off of eBay,
Oh my
and the eBay listing called him a beloved political figure from 1972. And I think he originally came out of a claw machine
Oh.
filled with presidents
That's
because
incredible.
it says on his tag, which I took off. Now it looks like he had like an ear piercing, but it said on his tag, "You've got to play to get them all." And the assortment of presidents that they had is
Yeah.
wild. So there's 8 to collect. Like 4 or 5 of them are on money. And then they came out in 1997. So then
Uh-huh.
there's George W. Bush,
Yeah.
Bill Clinton, Ronald Reagan, and Richard Nixon.
Wow.
And all the rest are on money. So there's Lincoln, Washington, those, Eisenhower, um, and Nixon.
That's incredible. Oh my God, look at him. Look at his little smirk. Little tricky
He's
dick.
got he's got a little shiny suit on. The
Yeah.
tie is like a full tie.
Wow. Has he ever worn a silver suit?
I like this because it's a little frayed.
Oh,
Like I
okay.
know
Yeah.
he wore clothes that didn't quite fit sometimes.
Mm.
But it's got like, I mean, the buttons don't undo, but they're real buttons. It's really
Wow.
well made. The shoes are like a pleather,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
like they're different fabrics.
Oh my God.
He's got the really nice Muppet texture to
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
So
blown
love
away.
my plush Nixie.
I think
Um
Build-A-Bear should do a presidential uh collection, and you can
I
build
want to
presidents. And you
I
can
want a
put little
Nixon
speaker boxes.
squishmallow. Yeah. Oh, I know. I know. He really should have a string that you can
Yes.
pull, that and he'll say iconic Nixon quotes. But
Is Nixon the peace signs, or is that Reagan?
yes, yes.
Yes, he's the peace signs. He should
And
have peace signs.
so in the movie highlight, so I've watched maybe 4 or 5 Nixon movies in the last 2 weeks, and I'm gonna I'll mention 3 of them because they all have connections to things we've talked about today.
Mm.
The first one doesn't, but the first one's my favorite, and that's Dick with
Mm-hmm.
Michelle Williams and Kirsten Dunst. They play 15-year-old girls who become the White House dog walkers. They teach him the peace sign in the movie.
Oh,
So that he goes off and does it to try to look cool.
yeah. Great,
He's
great.
like, "What does that mean?" And
Yeah,
Kirsten Dunst is like, "Peace." And he's trying to be the peace candidate, so
right.
he does that. That movie's really, really good and my favorite of the Nixon
Yes.
movies I've watched. So I also watched Nixon
Mm-hmm.
from 1995 with Anthony Hopkins as Nixon.
Right.
It's directed by Oliver Stone. Have you
Hmm.
ever seen an Oliver Stone movie?
He did a lot of those like super important period pieces, right? I feel like I probably have.
There's a certain segment of the population that believes they're super important, for sure. I forgot how annoying I find his filmmaking. He did I think his most famous is Natural Born Killers with Woody
Oh, okay.
Harrelson. He did JFK, which I have not yet seen,
Okay.
that popularized a lot of still persistent Kennedy conspiracy theories. And
Mm,
then in Nixon, he alludes to the fact that he believes Nixon was either involved in or knows more about the Kennedy assassination than he's willing to let on.
interesting.
Um, this movie the DVD had 28 minutes of additional restored footage, making it 3.5 hours long.
Holy sh!
But Brigette Wilson is in it. She
Oh,
plays I think she was a hooker. But she is in it for like 3 minutes.
great. Oh, good for her.
She has big, like big
Oh,
70s hair.
yes. Fun.
Mhm. Mhm. And then I also watched Elvis and Nixon,
Right.
which has an older Michael Shannon in it
Yep.
as Elvis. Terrible casting.
Where's Austin Butler?
Austin Butler is like a better Elvis than Elvis, but,
Yeah.
like, what bad casting, and then
Yeah.
Kevin Spacey, plays
Ooh.
Nixon, and, you really have to be something if, like, you're playing Richard Nixon and you still get a, "Ooh,"
Yeah, like an
like
ick. Yeah.
this movie came out right around the time he was about to be canceled, um,
Mm.
and his performance is so bad.
Really?
He feels like he's doing an impression of Anthony Hopkins doing an impression of Nixon. Like,
Ooh. Yeah.
it's terrible.
It's like
And the
so
whole
far
movie
removed.
is like an SNL skit that's like 90 minutes too long, and the
Mm.
movie's only 87 minutes. Like,
Yeah.
it's one of the worst movies I've seen, so I don't
Wow.
recommend that, but
Hmm.
I do, even if you're not a weird Nixon obsessive like I've become,
Yeah.
Dick is a lot of fun, so I
Yeah. I need to
recommend
watch Dick.
that.
Yeah.
Highly recommend it.
Hmm.
I was like, "Ooh, I wanted to own it," like, I wanted to own a Blu-ray of it. It's been
Yeah.
out of print for a long time, so the Blu-rays were
Oh.
from secondhand sellers and a little pricey on Amazon.
Oh, bummer.
Honestly, I don't understand why this movie doesn't have a better like cultural reputation.
Yeah, right? It sounds like fun.
It's begging to be reclaimed. And
Yes.
in Dick, one of the key plot points is Kirsten Dunst, her family's famous cookie recipe for a cookie called Hello Dollies, which is crushed graham crackers, chocolate chips, butterscotch chips, sweetened condensed milk.
Mm,
And you make like them into a big sheet. You
yeah.
cut them into bars so they're almost like brownies,
Mm,
and walnuts. And I'm I'm gonna try to make them this weekend. I
that
really
sounds
want to try
so
them.
good.
They seem really easy to make. And
Yeah.
then a big plot point in the movie is that her brother stores his weed in the jar with the walnuts. And
Uh-huh.
she's so naive. She thinks it's leaves from the walnut tree, which is what he told her. And so she gets
Oh.
Nixon and his whole staff. And I think Brezhnev stoned. And like, so her getting like world leaders stoned with her
Yeah.
cookies, like brings about like the end, of Vietnam. So
Oh
like
my God. I love it.
it's so funny.
Oh.
In the plot of this movie, while they're walking the dog, they end up like uncovering a lot of Nixon's wrongdoings and
Mm,
bringing down the Nixon presidency. It's great. Kirsten Dunst is on another level in this
yeah.
movie. She's so
Uh,
good,
this
so
has
cute, great stuff.
awesome.
Well, thank you, Amanda, and thank you, Ghosties, for listening to us break down House on Haunted Hill. Please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. I had to get the title right. Rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, and share us with a friend who likes movies. Until next time, stay ghosty. Boo bye.
Bye.